Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Desk Drop. So this week I'm really pumped to announce that I've got Sam McKenna, CEO and founder of Sam Sales with me. Sam, how you doing?
Good. How are you? So nice to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really well, thanks. I'm really well. It's a funny time for us over here in the UK. I'm sadly locked down in London, but hopefully we'll be
Yeah.
out of it soon.
How much longer? A couple weeks, yeah.
Oh, no one knows. No one's telling us anything, but they're keeping us guessing. It'll be
Hang in
okay. We'll
there.
get out
Hang in
of
there,
it.
guys.
Awesome. So, look, for those listening that don't know, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit more about. I know the companies you work with. You've got glittering CV, so tell us a bit more.
Yeah, I have been in enterprise sales for about 15 years, both as an individual contributor and as an executive leader. Sam Sales has been around for quite some time as a hashtag. So if we're not connected on LinkedIn and if you're already not following me, go on and have a look there. You'll see tons of great sales advice under hashtag Sam Sales, but the company is still relatively young. So we've only been around for about 18 months, but in our time we've grown to 12 employees. We've got almost 60 clients and everyone from the Googles and Salesforces of the world to small Series A funded companies. So we're kind of all over the place. But from my perspective, having been an IC and an executive leader over the years, I've pretty much done it all, seen it all, and experienced a heck of a lot along the way.
Very cool. Wow, 18 months and you've already got that many employees and those customers.
I know.
Fabulous.
I think you outpaced our growth, you guys, on your side. But yeah, it was where we ramped up quickly.
Well, we're cheating with venture capital funding. Anyway, it's all good. Look, again, thanks for joining us today. So today we're going to be talking about the foundations of sales.
uh,
Sound good?
yeah, I could talk about that for hours, so you'll have to stop me.
Okay, all right. Well, look, kick us off. What are the key things that we need to get right when we're talking about the foundations?
I mean, one of the things that I see is when we talk to our account executives, our SDRs, even people who have been selling for 20 or 30 years, one of the things that we keep finding is that the foundations are not really there, right? So how do you run a great discovery call? What does good look like? How do you handle objections when they come through in an email? What do you do to write a great outbound email? Like, what are the rules that make up a great outbound email? When we look at kind of these foundations, these things that you should get right, we find that there's a lot of opportunity to grow. Again, even from our brand new sellers to people who have been, say, selling at Oracle for 30 years. I had a VP reach out the other day who said, I don't think my team knows what to do on a discovery call. And that was from Oracle. That's huge, right? So I think we have such an opportunity to master these and then to grow from there.
Nice. So you've already mentioned email, and I was on a webinar with you a while back, and I noticed the sign which over your right shoulder, show me you know me. Tell us a little bit more about that and how that can help sales reps in this day and age.
Here's what I think. I think maybe 10 years ago, we started to scale through automation, right? All of these
Mm,
technologies came out about how to do everything overnight without the lift of a finger, push of a button, and everything was done. And I think while that really picked up, right, like how to automate spray and pray emails, how to send 10,000 emails and make it look personalized. While that was a big thing and while it helped us get volume out, I think our buyers became really perceptive to the fact that they were being, spammed basically, and they started to say no. So I think this is one of the things, right, where we have to be different is show me, you know me. Instead of sending out 5,000 emails and hoping for the best, instead of doing this awful thing, personalization at scale, where you say like, hey, Sam, I see you went to Florida State University in the States. I'd love to sell you my product, which ties really nothing to show me, you know me. Instead of doing that, we really need to spend 5 to 7 minutes looking at someone's profile, right? Digging into what it is about them, the challenges they might have, where they've worked before, where they went to school, if it's some, university that you cheer for. Perhaps you even see, what football team they, and I'm talking about soccer football, team they cheer for, right? If they're in the UK, and you connect the dots, you show them you know them, you show them that you've done that homework.
okay. So I think that's awesome, and I've seen a lot of particularly SDRs, BDRs fail at that because they don't have sort of a framework. We teach like the 3x3, which is like contact, company, compelling event, some things that you can find really fast.
Yeah.
Is that how you're teaching things as well?
I think it's a little bit less on the volume and it's more about finding something and then connecting with that something. So let's go back to my university, for example. I went to Florida State University, which is in the panhandle of Florida, has about 30,000 students every single year. It's known to be less academic, more shrinking related, or at least it was when I was there. But if you find that about me, like, and you want to say something about Florida State, tell me what about it, right? So if you say, I see you went to FSU, what about it? Tie the dots together with something personal to you. Either your friends went there, you've rooted for, our school for years, whatever it may be. It doesn't necessarily need to be a school, but what else can you find about them? Did you work with a company they've worked with before? Do you know somebody that they know? Do you want to visit their hometown? And let me give you one other example there. One of my favorite people is a gentleman named Andy who works for a company called Bright Talk, and he's based in London. And I said, Andy, if I reach out to you about your city and I say London in the subject line, you're not going to be very excited about that. But what if I say, gin and tonic at the American bar at the Savoy, or I say something like that in the subject line? Won't that grab your attention? Won't it show you that I already know that you're in London, or that there's something that I have about the Savoy that I want to tell you about, or something? It's just one level deeper. And then I can connect in the email and I say, I see you live in London. I'd love to get there anytime I can. One of my favorite drinks is here, or I've read about this place. I can't wait to visit one day, right? Just connect on a human level with that show me you know me, and you'll win.
In my experience, people are worried about putting that level of effort into research because it might not get a response even if you do it. So for anyone listening, you've got to keep doing it, and it will give you a much better chance. The bit that I find that, you and I'm sure both get prospected a lot, it's the what's in it for me piece as well, that afterwards start showing me you know me, but then what are you going to deliver to me, and what's that reason for me taking a meeting? How do you approach that?
Right. So I think this is where I see, again, a pretty systematic fail in the way that we write our emails. The value proposition, right? The way that we're tying the value proposition to that buyer is not great. So in our value proposition, I'm sure, Alex, you get these emails all the time. They're like, Alex, we can help you, find more pipeline, close deals faster, and for more money. And when I get those emails, the first thing I think is, you and everybody else. It doesn't tell me anything about what you specifically do or what challenge you're really going to solve for me in terms of how you do it. So think about your buyer. Like, what is the challenge that they're really looking to solve? What's an issue they have? And I'll give you a good example here. When I used to work, I'm previously an executive at LinkedIn, and I used to oversee enterprise sales for LinkedIn Sales Navigator, if any of you guys are familiar with that. And what do we do at LinkedIn Sales Navigator? We help you find contacts, we help you find email addresses, we help you, keep track of your clients, and that's all great. But here's one of the things that we wrote in our messaging that really resonated. I would write to you, Alex, and I would say, I've got an incredible way to open up MQLs and SQLs, right? Marketing qualified leads and sales qualified leads, via a process that we have around tracking job changes. I know Navigator could be of help to you. I'd love to show you how we do this process. Now, you even might be thinking, well, I want more MQLs and SQLs, and that's great. But job changes, I know that those are valuable to us. When our customers go from one customer to a non-customer, I want to know about it. And we don't track that right now. So this sounds great in theory, Sam. I'd love to book some time to be able to hear more. And that's our hook. That's what's in it for you, is I'm going to tell you something concrete to help you solve a challenge I know you're having.
I love that. It's a key trigger we've used over the years. Partly, we mainly sell to marketers, and we know that you've got that sort of that 3-month, we call it the honeymoon period, where you're going to rip a lot of stuff out. You're going to start looking at your budgets again. So that's the time where you need to strike. So timing is everything.
Oh, it's huge. And studies show, right, if you're the first person that reaches out on behalf of your product type, right, to that job change, that one, you're more likely to get the business. But two, keep in mind, when somebody changes jobs, if it's 2 days later, this isn't the time to be like, can I meet with you? It's the time to say, congrats on the new job. I'm sure you're underwater. I would love to chat with you about how we can help you here. You want to book some time in like 8 or 9 weeks, right? That what's the thing I'm looking for? Self-awareness is huge. And that will make a difference. And you'll probably get the meeting booked for the future.
Love that. Very cool. So we discussed email, bit of social there. I mean, one of the biggest foundations in any salesperson's role is cold calling, particularly at the beginning, objection handling. How do you teach the foundations of those?
I think, I've got a different point of view on cold calling. I know that we're still very excited about it. And I know there's a ton of leaders who are like 1,000 calls a day, which is totally reasonable. A couple of things that I find about cold calling. One, I read a recent research study that showed that average show rate for cold calls is 37%. not only is it hard, right? And it takes a lot of work, and we're not getting people to pick up their phones. And if we leave them a voicemail, they're not calling us back, right? Unless we're offering them $1 million. It's a lot of work to get a subpar show rate. I think a lot of our focus on cold calls is really where we're stuck in the past of how we used to do it. And it's just all we seem to know how to do. Plus we've got metrics with it. We can say, well, we made 100 cold calls, like we're doing our job. So my advice would actually be, think about how you can automate a lot of this and still personalize through platforms like Outreach, SalesLoft, et cetera. But the other thing is, if you do make a cold call, a couple of things I would say. One, I think the great majority of the cold calls I get, I don't know why, but maybe this is how my name shows up somewhere. They call me Sarah McKenna. My name is Samantha McKenna. And so like immediately, right, when there's a pause and I can hear someone struggling and they say Sarah McKenna, I'm like, oh God. But think about it from your own perspective. When you call this person, get the name right, that's table stakes. But here's what my go-to would be. I'd be like, hey, Alex, it's Sam McKenna calling from Sam Sales. I am sure I'm catching you at a bad time, but we'd love to find some time to chat with you about our BDR hotline that we do, our email rewriting services, or even what you guys are doing with LinkedIn training. Is doing anything around that? Is there a chance I could grab your time to talk to you about it another time? I'm getting through it really quickly. I'm at least giving my value right out of the gate. And I'm saying, I'm sure you don't want to talk to me right now. I'm sure you're in the middle of something, even if you're not. And trying to get you to at least say, wait, what was that about? A BDR hotline? Tell me more about that. And they'll be like, oh, okay, great. And then hopefully can continue on. Real quick, one more thing on that. Please stop. Whoever decided to say that the best cold calling line was, hey, Alex, do you have 37 seconds for me to tell you why I called today? Oh my God. If you guys are doing that, please stop it immediately. It's so bad because my answer is going to be no.
So that's been known as a pattern interrupt, right? It's been used and advocated by many. What's your alternative?
I think just starting the conversation with that, like right with what I had said there. Hey, Alex, it's Sam McKenna calling from Sam Sales. I'm sure I'm calling you at a bad time, but I would love a chance to talk to you about, and think about the things that somebody would want to talk about, right? Like if you're calling and saying like IT cloud computing, and I'm calling Alex to say that, he's going to be like, I have no idea what that is, nor do I have any interest in it. But if I call Alex and I say like, I would love to talk to you about a program that we have to onboard your BDRs faster, Alex is going to say, well, I just hired 4 BDRs, so that might be interesting to me, right? I think the pattern interrupt is, I like the theory of it. I think the way that we're doing it with the 37 seconds is bonkers, in my humble opinion.
I think it's a fair point. You should go straight into it. Now, there are 2 things that you've mentioned there. One, I'd love to know more about this BDR hotline, but also like onboarding BDR. So let's go with the onboarding bit first.
Yeah.
What are the, as you mentioned, we're onboarding for at the moment. What are the key things that you look for and you're like, if businesses are not doing this, then they're missing a serious trick?
I think one of the things, again, we're not focusing on the foundations of sales, like, so really focusing on that. Great outbound email. If we're getting them to qualify calls, making sure they really know how to run a good discovery call and investing in that. But think about that too. When you're bringing on these BDRs, typically you're getting somebody who has absolutely no experience doing this or very limited experience. So it means you can really reinvent the wheel of the type of employee they are. I would advocate for you to think about this as a journey that the BDR can ultimately become your AE, your mid-market, your enterprise AE, right? Like if we treat them right and if we educate them correctly, they're never going to leave us. They're going to know our network inside and out. But 2, think about teaching them not just how to sell your product, but how to sell. I see this day in and day out where we get on discovery calls. We do, fun things in the US with a company called Replays, where we let people kind of American Idol for sales and do a disco and a demo in front of a live audience. And what we find is that the minute we get off track from their script, the minute we get off track from what they're presenting or what they came prepared to talk about, and we start to really ask meaningful senior level questions, I haven't met an AE in a very long time who's like, oh, and can take that and run with it, right? And start to solve our challenges. So how do we sell? How do we sell and respond to somebody when they ask a question that's a little bit different than exactly what we expected?
Yeah, it's such a good point. We're trying to build too many playbooks, perhaps create too many scripts. And when things go off script, which in my experience happens more than ever, it's like, what do I do now? You're kind of a little bit stuck.
Right. Well, and even you said a great keyword, right? The idea of a script. So I think we're so keen on this. Like we're going to control every part of the conversation. We're going to write all the questions. We're going to do all that. But imagine if instead we taught someone how to have a great conversation, how to ask open-ended questions, how to meet questions with a answer, but tell me more about it. or how to be great active listeners. We've again, Gartner just did a research piece on this saying that the number one things B2B buyers want from their sales reps is active listeners. And when you conversely look at sales enablement rankings of what they're focusing on, say active listening is like 9th, 10th, or not even on the list. So these small things of how to have a good conversation will pay off in spades because they'll know what to do.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah, we're on the same page. I've never written a script in this organization. I don't intend on doing it ever. It's like, just be human, have a conversation and listen. Very cool. Tell me about this BDR hotline that you were speaking about earlier.
Yeah, so this is something that came as a result of one of our clients. One of our clients about 6-7 months ago is a chief revenue officer, and he was working with a team of BDRs, and he's like, I don't know what to do with them. I don't know the best practices. I don't know how to train them. I've never been a BDR. I never had a BDR when I was an AE, right, as a CRO. He's like, what do I do? And I said, well, we're going to put together this Slack hotline. So now we've got 6 clients on it. We just welcomed our 6th with 50 BDRs, which is a pretty active chat there. But what we basically do is, one, we've got great content that we give them on this BDR channel every single day. We've got our head of content who just cycles great information and tactics from Outreach, from Gong, from Gartner, from Sam Sales, and we answer their questions all day long. So I think of BDRs as kind of like little baby birds, right, in a nest, and they've got, they're squawking all day long. They have 100,000 questions. There's no way a BDR manager can, 1, answer all those questions, 2, keep up with the latest data, and 3, just think about how many questions probably go into that person's mind and they say, I don't want to ask my boss that because I'm nervous to admit that I don't know it. So that's basically what we do on our Slack channel, is we talk all day long and answer questions and build them up to be incredible at future AEs.
Very cool. Sounds like a gold mine.
Yeah, it's a, you know, what the best thing is for us is we really feel like we're investing in the future of these BDRs. And I think they are so grateful for the investment that their companies are making, and that they just get answers to their questions and that they work. Talk about building a solid foundation.
Love it. Genius idea, Sam. All right, look, we're coming up for time here. So one of the things I do like to ask is, we can talk forever about all the great things we should do with the foundations. What's one of the things that you're seeing at the moment that you'd almost tell people to stop doing right now? What's the thing that's kind of like, oh, I wish I could stamp this out of the sales community?
How much time do you have? You said we're running short on time, right? Here's the biggest thing I've got. So let me set the stage for you, okay? And I want you to tell me how you are going to react when this happens, right?
Okay.
So pretend I'm 23-year-old Sam BDR, and I reach out to you, Alex. I've got a strong email that I send out, and you say, this makes sense. Perhaps you respond to my navigator email and you say, great, you respond. I would love to take a meeting with you. That sounds great. Then the next thing I do is I respond to you and I say, great, Alex, here's my Calendly link for you to schedule time with me. How do you feel when that comes through in your email?
Potentially a little bit shortchanged, maybe a little bit like you're trying to make it too easy for yourself. I don't know, it might leave a bit of a bad taste.
Totally. This is one of the things that I absolutely hate. I see this happen day in and day out. When you get a response, so my commitment, my mantra is to you guys, as anyone that's on the BDR side, especially in leadership, that you're teaching this the right way. When somebody responds to you and actually is willing to give you the time of day, the thing that we are working to have happen all day, every day, so desperately for, respond immediately. Urgent bird gets the worm. Respond with urgency and say, Alex, thanks so much for your kind note. Can't wait to schedule time with you. Here are a few times I have available, or could you kindly send a few times to work on your end, and I'll make them work on my side. 2 things. If I send you my Calendly link, 1, maybe I'm not booked at all. And then Alex, you're going to click on that link and say, well, she's not very in demand. Like, woo, right? But the other thing is that it also doesn't let me control the timing of the meeting. Perhaps I'm really booked and I have a lot of internal one-on-ones. And so then you don't book for another 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I've seen that happen before. So now we've extended our sales cycle instead of shortened it. And the final, and to me, the most important thing, it's just rude. You saying to someone, like, as valuable as Alex, like, here, you schedule time with me, is the equivalent to me as if I, like, let's say I met Alex out, somewhere at a bar, and I was like, hey, like, we should have drinks sometime together. And Alex says, that sounds great. And I'm like, here's my calendar for you to schedule time with me. You'd be like, you just asked me on a date. Like, this isn't right. Same thing goes here. Get off your butt, ask them for their times, send the calendar invite yourself, make a good first impression.
Nice. I love that. I use a thing in Calendly where I actually can select times and send it to them, and then they can book it straight. Would that be okay?
I think that would be better, right? Or saying if these times don't work, let me know what times do work for you, right? But then at least they can click on it there. I still say like go the old school route. Maybe that's just me being old school, but give them a good first impression. Just ask them, you tell me what works for you and I'll make it work on my side.
Interesting. I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle, but I'll certainly think about that.
Okay.
Very, very cool. Okay, well, look, at Reach Desk, obviously, a lot of what we do is direct mail and gifting and that sort of things. Have you ever been sent anything good in the post?
Yeah, tons of things. I'll tell you a most recent example. This wonderful human being named Derek Harvey in the States took a cue from basically everything that I have behind me. He attended one of my webinars, was so excited about the things that I shared. He emailed me and said, could I have your mailing address? I'd love to send you something. By the way, mailing address is a great way to ask for an address if you don't have one, right? Or if you want to send a thank you note, it's not creepy. Can I have your home address is creepy. Can I have your mailing address is good. But he actually made temporary tattoos for me that had a pineapple in the middle and then had show me you know me and urgent bird gets the worm on it. These are the two things I would have probably tattooed on myself if I was ever brave enough to do that. So he went one step beyond and got me a temporary tattoo, which I can't even say how thoughtful that was.
Wow. And was that to get a meeting with you, or was it just like, you're great, Sam, here's something from me?
It was just to say, you're great. Here's something for me. I so appreciate the advice you gave me, right? But here's also what happened. He didn't ask for anything in return. However, he continues to engage with my LinkedIn content. And then he sent me a note and he's like, hey, I'm applying for a job here. I see you know someone here. Do you think it's a good company? Do you know anything about them? So what did I do? I jumped through hoops to try and get him a meeting with some of these people that could give him the scoop on the internal landscape, right? Or if I knew the person he was interviewing with, I could go and say, this person at least has some great foundational EQ skills here. You should at least give them a shot. So it was great. It just worked out for him without him deliberately looking to do that.
Wow, that's the reciprocity I see a lot in gifting and like direct mail. So
Totally.
awesome. Love that. And yeah, I'm with you. I've never had a tattoo done before. I don't think I'm brave enough even to get the Reach Desk logo. So,
I'm with you. Maybe one day, probably not.
Maybe one day, we'll see. Sam, look, we're up for time. Final thing for me is that how do people find you, follow you, get in touch with you?
Yeah, come pop over to samsalesconsulting.com. You can sign up for our newsletter. We have tons of great content on there. We also have these great shorts on our website, which you can find under our solutions. Tons of free, quick videos. There are also great paid ones for an annual subscription if you want that. And finally, just pop over to LinkedIn and give me a follow or give me a shout. I'm pretty responsive on that platform, so feel free to say hello anytime.
Awesome. Awesome. Look, I've been following you for a while. I've got some great content. I've certainly learned some of those neat tips and tricks that you've been giving. Sam, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Alex.
Cool. Thanks. Speak soon.